All right, with everything going on, I think it's important to give you 10 common mistakes. 10 mistakes that preppers make. I'm second generation prepper. My dad was a prepper. I've made a lot of these mistakes over the years, and I know a lot of people that have. So learn from our mistakes, but we're going to count down. We're going to count down 10 common mistakes that a lot of preppers make. So first of 10 is neglect physical fitness, and I want to start with that as number 10 on the countdown. A lot of people may be grown on that one, and I will say there's two disparate strategies for survival, and I want to hit on both of them, right? Number one is super active. So I used to fight in a group called the SCA. It was a martial arts style sport, full speed, full contact. We beat the crap out of each other, kind of our own little fight club, right? I did that for 10 plus years on and off. And when I was fighting, I was peak physical shape, right? Worked out sometimes multiple times a day. Gym, yoga, Pilates for flexibility, racquetball for speed, constantly working out, because if you're in that kind of a physical situation, physical confrontation, you got the Daft Punk harder, faster, stronger, right? You want to be in peak shape, and you see the same thing in the military. Anytime you're planning on, or you may be looking at going into some kind of a fight situation, obviously you want to be in peak physical shape, right? But when we're talking about survival, there's the other end of the spectrum where you're just trying to get through the winter, right? In that situation, maybe a little extra body fat might help you survive lean times, right? So there are two sides of it. It's not always run and gun, harder, faster, stronger, right? But you don't want to completely neglect. As I said, I know I'm guilty of that as well. I am not in the best shape of my life. Prepping for disaster, for emergency situations, prepping to survive. Physical fitness is important, and we're going to call that number 10 on the countdown, just for all the groans, right? So number 9, we'll jump into number 9 on the countdown here. Ignoring local risks and conditions. So there's actually a great story out there called Who Moved My Cheese? And it's about mice, right? It's about a group of mice, and they got their free cheese, right? And every day they'd go eat their free cheese, and over time, the supply of free cheese kept getting less and less and less, and they just kept going and eating their cheese, and they would get less and less. And at some point, some mice are going to be like, hey, we need to move on, right? Our supply of free cheese keeps going down. We got to move on. Others are going to sit around and wait till just the cheese is gone, right? And that's ignoring local risks, ignoring local conditions, right? You have to be aware of what's going on. Is someone moving your cheese? You know, things like economic changes, industry shifting. If you're in a town and there's one factory, I'm not saying it's easy to get up and relocate, but there is the Who Moved My Cheese story, and just be aware of what's going on around you. Wildfires, earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, crime. You know your local area, right? Know what's going on. Things can change. I had a story of a friend in Wisconsin about a decade ago now. There were a lot of riots and stuff, and he said they were outside his house, and he wasn't really sure what to do. So you need to be aware of that, right? Take care of what's going on next door before you worry about World War III and zombie apocalypse. Just be aware of what's going on. So that's number 9. We're going to go to number 8. Failure to rotate supplies. That happens to the best of us. So I had a can of yams, a big number 10 can of yams that I sort of forgot about, and it had rusted out, and it wasn't even past the best by date. So best by dates don't necessarily mean expired. Things maybe not make it that far, but it sucks to throw away food, to throw away stuff. I've had flashlights that you put in a drawer and you forget about it, and you come back, you're like, hey, I forgot I had this flashlight. You open it up and the batteries have all melted down, right? They're all, you get the acid pouring out, flashlight's probably ruined, black batteries are ruined. So neglecting your supplies, not rotating, not keeping an eye on what you have in your pantry, in your supplies, right? Certainly can happens to the best of us, and it's just a waste. It's a waste of money, it's a waste of time. Put stuff away, have it rot, and then just forget about it, right? So that's going to be number 8, failure to rotate supplies. So number 7 is an interesting one. You hear this a lot. Neglecting mental preparedness. How do you become mentally prepared, right? And that's a good question. I don't see it answered a lot, but I kind of dug around and I came up with a few items, not mine, but I tend to agree with them and worked on the list a little bit. Growth mindset, cultivate a growth mindset. And this doesn't have anything to do, or doesn't have to, with preparing or SHTF, but in terms of your mental health, growth mindset, I think, is important, right? Look at how you can grow as a person. Look at how you can grow in your career. Look at how your family can grow. How can you improve your situation? Have that growth mindset, learning new skills, lifetime learner, reading new books, always trying to grow as a person. I think that's important. Emotional regulation, once again, very important. Don't let your emotions be the best of you, right? You don't need to be, if you've got anger issues, if you're over emotional all the time, learn to kind of control that, right? Find your center, find your core, find your inner peace, and think, right? Think before you act. So I think emotional regulation is important. Set realistic goals, but do set goals. This thing called stretch goals. You should have goals that you're growing towards, and they shouldn't always be easy goals in life. So realistic goals, stretch goals. Strengthen your support system certainly is important, right? You want to have support. You need to have friends. You need to have family. You need to have people that can support you in your growth, in your journey, in your good times, in your bad times. And then self-compassion is one. Don't beat yourself up too much, right? We all make mistakes, but really mental preparedness, mental strength is dealing with coping skills, dealing with stress, high stress situations. And I think finding a good place for yourself mentally, where you're focused, where you're working on your goals, you're not beating yourself up, you're achieving, I think you're going to be in a better place mentally, right, if something does go wrong. So mental preparedness, positive attitude, sense of humor, those are all good things. Those are all good things to build out, right? So that was number 7 on the countdown. Number 6, isolation and lack of community is a common mistake I see. People, you get that lone wolf idea. I don't have a lot of friends, don't need a community, don't need people. I'm good on my own. I don't trust anybody anyway. And that may be true, and that may work fine for you in the short term, but in the long run, we all need help from somebody at some point, whether that's medical help, whether it's help lifting something heavy, whether it's help on a project, whether it's just a skill you don't have. So I think building a community is important, and it can be a common mistake, especially as a prepper, if you have a hard time finding people with similar interests to connect with, can be an issue. But I think it's critical, especially in the long term. So we all need some kind of help from somebody at some point. So having that community can really help out. So that was number 6. Number 5, failure to reassess and adapt, right? And this is more than just SHTF. Long-term sustainability, paradigm shift. We see paradigm shifting around us all the time right now. Look at AI. Look at what AI is doing as AI becomes more powerful, as that paradigm shifts, seeing people losing jobs, right? You need to learn new skills. You need to expand. You need to grow. Or you're going to get left behind, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go out and learn how to program AI, but it's reassessing, it's adapting to a changing world, and that can apply directly in prepping as well. What's your risk profile? What are you looking at? If you're focused on World War III and we get hit by a cyber attack, you just have to look at what's going on, right? And I don't want it to all be doom and gloom. I think as a person, learning how to adapt, how to assess what's going on, especially in the world, in the markets, I think that's important, right? Assess and adapt, be adaptable, be flexible. As Bruce Lee said, be water, right? Water flows around obstacles, right? Water is very strong, very powerful. If you hit it hard, it'll hold strong, yet it's flexible, it flows, right? So be water. So that's number 5. Number 4, ignoring basic survival skills. Back to basics, right? How many people can start a fire, right? That could be something very important. Fire is the key to survival in any kind of outdoor situation. Obviously, if you're just living comfortably in your house and the power's on, you're like, fire doesn't come up a lot. But just basic survival skills, how to start a fire, maybe how to purify water, things like that could go a long way. It may not cost a lot of money to learn, right? So think about just basic survival skills, shelter building, fire starting, navigating. I did a video on a book about navigation. You get the book, you read it, play with a compass, just basic skills. Those are skills that people used to have all the time. They used to be common skills just to get through life, and now they're all lost, right? We've lost all of our basic survival skills, starting a garden, any of that kind of stuff, just basic skills. Most people don't have them anymore because you don't need them, right? And our brains kind of just shut out the stuff you don't need. And we lose stuff. We've lost a lot. We've lost a lot in the last couple generations, lost a lot along the way. So that was number 4, counting down. Number 3, focusing solely on gear, right? It happens. I've talked to a lot of people, right? We get caught up in that. You buy a bunch of stuff. You don't get a chance to test it out. You don't necessarily build the skills around it. I've talked to people that say, I bought a gun and never practiced with it, never shot it, carry it around sometimes. Like, you don't even know if it works or how it works, but you got it, so you're good, and that doesn't really count, right? Stuff you've never practiced with, stuff you don't know how to use, stuff you've never been trained on isn't going to have a lot of value, right? So you can't focus solely on gear, right? Once again, you can buy 1,000 pounds of rice and beans, and it's great, but do you know how to cook it? Right? I'd say that. Do you know how to cook it? And then do you know how to grow food? What happens when you've eaten all your rice and beans? Do you know how to build a garden? Do you know how to grow food? Do you know how to seed save? So gear sure is important, but skills also, right? It's always going to be a balance of skills and gear. And if you don't take training, if you don't practice, the gear isn't going to be worth a whole lot. So that was number 3. We're getting close here. So number 2 is panic. And I get it, right? If you're a prepper, if you're a survivalist, you're going to be more inclined to, say, dig deeper into the news, try to figure out what's going on in the world, right? You want some warning if something big's coming. You're always looking for stuff, and in doing that, in doom scrolling, you might find yourself in panic situations. And I think a lot of preppers have probably hit that point. I saw a thing on my news feed, like it was a memory from I think 5 years ago, where it said North Korea summit or something hours away from nuclear war. Now it's 5 years ago, and we know it didn't happen, right? Nuclear war didn't happen, but you can see that, and you're like, oh my God, we're hours away from nuclear war. What am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to run to the grocery store. I'm going to get in the bunker, and that kind of leads into something else. I remember a conversation I had on a prepper group many years ago. It was probably the 19s, right, going into 20, prior to the pandemic. Someone said, hey, this is it, the big pandemic's coming in. Me and 5 friends, we maxed out our credit cards, we accumulated all the money we could, and we built a bunker, and we've stocked a bunker. We're going in. See you later, guys. I'm out, right? We're checked out of society. We're going into the bunker. And in hindsight, probably, if they really did that, which they said they did, probably not a great idea, right? Credit cards are maxed out. Not to say the pandemic didn't happen, and maybe for them as a person, people did pass away, and maybe they would have and they didn't, right? You can't judge each situation, but you can say you probably panicked, right? Probably a little too much panic in that set of actions. Now, if you're in Poland and it's January 1939 and you're saying, hey, something weird's coming, I think we're going to build the bunker. Well, Poland was invaded, right? Later that year, I think it was September 1st, 1939. So in that sense, maybe it wasn't an overreaction, and you don't always know until hindsight hits, but my advice is temper the panic, right? Don't overextend, don't max out your credit cards. It feels like SHTF, some kind of major disaster is only hours away, and maybe it is, and it's not to say things don't happen, right? And couldn't happen. I'm not saying ignore it. But you have to temper. You have to temper your panic. You stay focused, stay on a plan, set your goals, move forward, don't overextend. Great example is someone born in, say, 1900s, 1910. Throughout their life, they went through the Great Depression, they went through World War I, they went through World War II, they went through Korean War, a lot of wars, a lot of economic issues, and a lot of people survived that. Right, so, you know, I mean, you can say, hey, big war's coming, World War III. You could argue we're in World War III. You could argue a lot of stuff might happen, and it certainly could, but said we made it through World War I, we made it through World War II. I'm not saying, you know, if someone was in Poland and wanted to build a bunker, not a bad idea, right? There are a lot of things that have happened over the years. So it's tempering your panic. It's prepping within your means. Just keep a level head, right? And part of that was mental preparedness. Set your goals, build to your goals, build up your successes in life, build up your self-esteem, your self-confidence. That way, if something happens, if you're in a high-stress situation, you're more prepared, right? You're more prepared to act. You're less likely to panic. And we'll say number one, right? We're counted down. Back to number one here. Forget to prepare for the good times, right? And that's sort of what I was leading to on panic, which is it's not all doom and gloom. Don't max out your credit cards, right? Trying to get prepared for something may never happen. Tomorrow will come, right? There's going to be good times, and you want to prepare for that as well. Build yourself, right? Grow, learn, improve your physical fitness, improve your mental preparedness, but don't forget about the good times. Don't forget to enjoy the good things in life, right? There's a lot of great stuff going on around us. There may be plenty of doom and gloom to fill up your day, but stop doom scrolling for a little while and just enjoy life, right? Don't forget about the good times. Don't forget to prepare for the good times. So, as always, I hope that helps out. Just wanted to give you 10, right? 10 common mistakes preppers make, and I've made many of them myself. So, as always, thank you for watching, and we appreciate you.